Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, should I say. We are now just into the afternoon, and welcome to another Samee Whiz session. These are becoming quite a regular appearance, and we're getting the same time, prime time, Friday lunchtime, which is good. So you're either watching me or you're watching something else on ITV. So, switch back over and let's join us for a much more interesting conversation. We've got people are starting to log on now, so let us know. Say hi, say good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day you want to class it as, and join us and interact with us. It'd be great to see you all. So as you know, we do these sessions regularly, and we've been doing different sessions each week, and we've got loads of exciting topics happening coming up, and this week is no different. So I'm really looking forward to this one. It's going to be an interesting conversation, and pop your comments on, pop your questions in the banners, let us know that you're listening. We've got Gareth on, who should be known very well to today's speaker. So Gareth has joined us. Welcome. Thank you, Gareth. Good morning. The others will be coming on shortly. So thank you, Bev, for joining us, and thank you for coming to share your experience with us. Would you like to just start by letting us know a little bit about yourself and your background and what you do, etc.?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So I'm Bev Taylor, and I have a background in health psychology, and I've worked mostly in research for most of my career, so in academic research or in research consultancies, and that's across a load of different health conditions and therapeutic areas. So I've covered things from quite rare genetic illnesses in children to chronic occupational health kind of things, to menopause, which we're going to chat about today. But most of my work is focused on health-related quality of life, which is really one of my main interests. I currently work for the General Medical Council as a research manager there, and that means I commission researchers to conduct work on behalf of the G.M.C. Again, it's really varied. We do research covering all areas of the G.M.C. So we might be evaluating training programs and seeing how things like that are working, or we may be looking at how people perceive the G.M.C. across various audiences. So it's really varied and really interesting. Anybody who doesn't know about the G.M.C., the General Medical Council regulates all doctors in the UK. And so they decide which doctors are qualified to work in the UK, and that's across all 4 nations. They set standards for doctors and oversee medical education, and also assess doctors' fitness to practice if there's any complaints and things like that as well. So a really interesting company to work for, because it spans such a huge area in healthcare.
Excellent, and thank you very much. And people are now starting to come in, which is great. So we've got Michael is saying good afternoon. Lorraine is saying yes, we are here. Brilliant. So as you come on in and as you're joining us, pop in, say hello, pop your name and your details in, and say hi to us. And let us know you're here. And also you can share any comments or questions that you have in the thing. So please feel free to ask questions about today's session as we're going along. And also let us know that you're getting value and that you're enjoying the session in the comments section as well. So I think that's brilliant, and thank you for that introduction, Bev, and thank you for joining us. Now I'm going to pop your details up as well. If anyone has any questions from today, then you can contact Bev on Dr. Bev Taylor at hotmail.com, and she will be happy to take your questions and answer them and respond to you as she can. So I think let's get into this and let's kick the ball rolling. Today's session was a very interesting session, and it's looking at menopause and how it can support in the workplace and the effects it has, which we went on a training session with you recently, and I attended that training session, and for me, I learned stuff that I didn't know about it. So it was really quite an interesting topic that yeah, there was so much stuff that I think we'll share some of that today, and it'll be interesting to see people's takes on it. Martin is saying hello as well. So hi, Martin. Good to see you on here. And it's good to see that we've got a mixture of audience as well, because as we titled it, menopause, not just a woman's business. So it'll be interesting to see the comments and the thoughts and questions that come through today. So I think let's kick things off. So how did you start? How did the work around menopause start for you?
So I worked on a placement. I was working for King's College London on a menopause treatment trial. So we were looking at cognitive behavioural therapy as a possible treatment for menopausal hot flushes and night sweats. And that's really where the passion kind of started. So I was the trial coordinator on that, in that kind of position. So I would assess women just before they went into the trial, just after they completed the treatment. And then again, I followed them up like about 3 months later. And it was just so interesting to see their progression and transition as they went through the treatment, because menopause is one of those things, it's still like such a taboo within our culture. Nobody really talks about it. Women get quite embarrassed about it. It's linked with feelings about being older and kind of being past your peak, or whatever you might want to call it. So women kind of find this quite a difficult time, and then they've got symptoms on top of that and things. So it's really interesting to see people go through the treatment and kind of unfold and realise that they didn't have to be really angry and upset about menopause. It could be managed in a more effective way, which meant it didn't impact on life so much. So as part of that study, we were writing up papers in peer-reviewed journals, and I was doing my doctorate in health psychology alongside that. So I wrote a few extra bits and pieces around that. But then I kind of moved away from that, and I went and worked in a research consultancy that was working with pharma companies and things, moved away from academia. And then at the G.M.C, such a supportive organisation that's got quite a few networks. So we've got a women's health network, we've got a women's network, we've got a menopause working group and things. And when the women's network set up the menopause working group, they were kind of wanting some people to talk about menopause or to get involved in it. And at that point, I took maternity leave. I was like, do I really want to get involved? And very timidly put my hand up and said, might know something here, but don't scare me too much. And kind of went along and just did a few sessions that went down really well with women, because I think it's still so hard when you Google to find information about it and stuff that's really helpful and supportive. It depends on whether your GP is specialised in it, whether it's a female GP, male GP, etc. As to how much information you get, and also how much they want you to try different treatments, or how much they think it should be managed just as without treatments and stuff. So women often don't get what they need from the GP or from from Google and other things out there. So it went down really well, and I just thought there's a niche here that women aren't getting what they need. So I kind of really wanted to get involved and do a bit more if I could.
And I think that's why the title's so apt, because if women can't find what they need, for the male counterpart looking to support them in a business setting to make life more supportive and more easier for them, they'll know what they're looking for. So we wouldn't know what we're looking for. So it makes it even harder for us. So that's why I think, it's important for everyone. Liz has joined us as well. Afternoon, Liz. Good to see you on here. So that's great. So that kind of talks about where it started. Now, we titled this Not Just a Woman's Business, as we've kind of covered. Why is it important for everyone and not just men to know this information?
So, because it's I want to say normal life transition. Obviously, some women may go through menopause through surgical means and things like that. But in terms of for the majority of women, most women will go through this at some point. So, it's generally 40s, early 50s, late 40s, early 50s in the Western cultures. But once you hit a certain age, you will go through it. Men will be affected because all men have a mum, a partner, a daughter, a friend that's female, etc., that you might come into contact, or you might be a line manager, you might have people in the workplace who are going through it. So it's useful for everybody to know about it. And it is a normal life transition, so we need to be aware. It's like puberty, it's like anything that, men and women go through. It's going to have some symptoms that might impact on your life that you might need to manage. But for men particularly, I think if you're not aware of it and don't understand any of the symptoms, then you might just think your partner, your wife, your friend, whoever is just being a bit moody and a bit difficult and things, and that might impact on your relationship or how you're coping with them in your life. But if you know a bit about it, so for example, if a woman's having night sweat, which are very hot, sweaty things that happen at night when you're in bed asleep. Often wake you up, or it might be when you're at the periods in your sleep cycle where you naturally wake up and then you have a night sweat. And that night sweat might mean that you sweat so much you need to get up and go into your pajamas. Some women need to have a shower or change the bed sheets or put a towel down or something like that. Which again, that might disrupt on, if you're sleeping in the same bedroom, it might disrupt on your sleep and things as well. Or it might mean that in the bedroom again, your partner might need the window open, even if it's winter, or a fan on, things like that, which might get you really annoyed if you don't know about these symptoms. Whereas if you're a bit aware and you know and you can support that woman, then because women do report that if it impacts on the bedroom, then sometimes that means that you just sleep in separate rooms, and that can have a real impact on your relationship with your partner. Similarly, it impacts on work. So lots of women report that when they have a hot flush and they're in a meeting with more males and females, or they're trying to give a presentation and they get this hot flush, which is a feeling of heat that can start at the feet or the tummy or the neck and kind of push up through the body. Some women get very red on the chest or the face. Some women sweat a lot. If you're in the middle of a presentation or a big meeting, it can impact on how you feel about work. And then some women naturally then want to leave the workplace, which again, if you're a line manager or whatever, then that can be quite detrimental, particularly in a small business or a business where that woman has a lot of expertise that is difficult to fill. And it could impact on women reaching those more senior positions, because it hits around that later point in life where you might be at a more senior position. So I think just the more we can talk about it, be aware of it, know what the symptoms are and how we can manage them, then the better it is for everybody, because it doesn't become something that you have to talk about in secret and be embarrassed about and hide. It's something that we can just go, okay, I'm having a hot moment, just carry on the conversation and I'll rejoin when I've kind of breathed through this and it's all fine.
Yeah, brilliant. And we're getting some thumbs up there with that one as well. So I think there's a few maybe experiences knowing what you're talking about there, and have experienced that. And I think that was what opened my mind, was the workplace side of things. And interestingly, I remember when we were talking, we found a statistic that women in their 40s, 50s and 60s are the most likely stage to ask for a divorce. And there was no direct link to the menopause with that, but it's got to have some sort of take on that, I would say. Also, let us know if you're getting value as well. If this is resonating with you, if you've got experiences, feel free to share those in the comment side of things as well, because it'd be really good to kind of know what people are getting value from and what people are thinking around this. So we hear the word and think we know what menopause is or means, but just explain a little bit more and some of the things that we maybe didn't know.
Sure. So menopause means last menstrual period. So there is a couple of stages to it. So the premenopause is when you haven't got any symptoms, you're having your normal periods for whatever's normal for that woman. But then once you start to transition through the menopause, it's called like the perimenopausal phase. And that's when you start to have some symptoms, and it impacts more there on your cycles and stuff like that. So some women may have 2 menstrual periods within a month, which is a lot of bleeding within a month. I mean, most women have a 28 to kind of 30 odd day cycle, but some going through the menopause, you might get 2 periods really close together, so within like 30, 40 days, and then nothing for 6 months, and then another couple close together. Or you might have heavier or lighter periods than normal and things as well. And you might also get things like the hot flushes and night sweats, brain fog or concentration issues and things like that alongside that time. But the perimenopausal phase is where you've got a drop in estrogen because you're going through this hormonal change. So your body's kind of going very up and down. So it can impact on your moods, it can impact on your hot flushes and things and your cycle, but it can really impact on how you feel. And that can last for a couple of years. So like 2 to 4 years or whatever. Some people say 8 years. It's not really like hard and fast statistics on it, because it depends on how quickly your body drops. So if you've had a surgical menopause, that drop is a lot more severe and quicker than if you've had a natural menopause, for example. But once you've gone through the menopause, and the menopause is diagnosed when you've not had a period for a year, then you're considered to go into the postmenopausal phase, which again can last quite a while before you have no symptoms and things, and you've kind of considered to have gone through to the other side of it. Something that lots of people aren't aware of is when you're going through that transition, you can still get pregnant. Women are still able to get pregnant. So doctors will always say, make sure if you don't want a baby at that time, which many people might not, make sure you're using, some sort of contraception and things like that. Because that's quite key. As people think as soon as you start having this transition that you can no longer get pregnant, and that's a bit of a myth there. It's only when you've gone through the menopause and you're not having any periods anymore for quite a while that's the case. So yeah, I think those are the key ones to think about there.
Brilliant, fantastic. And Lorraine's just asked a question, actually, moving on from that, and certainly, actually, even though we've done the training, the whole pregnancy thing, that something for me would be, well, I would assume once that started, that's it. So it's good to know that that's the case, that actually maybe you need to think about things a little bit longer than normal. So Lorraine has asked, can you give advice on some phrases so that we can start the conversation with a colleague when we want to support through things like hot flushes?
Oh, phrases in what to say.
Yeah, so I think that's a good topic. I think you talked a little bit in your training about how people can say the wrong thing and stuff like that. So yeah, so certain things you can say that can start a conversation with a colleague if they want support through. So I think Lorraine's meaning that if she was going through hot flushes and she wanted some support, how she could kind of maybe start that conversation with a colleague to get the right responses.
Sure. So I think it'd probably be like any kind of sensitive conversation. Obviously, it needs to be dealt with quite honestly and openly without any judgment and all that kind of thing. But yeah, I think women would be quite open to it as long as it's done in the right way. So just asking somebody if they need any support. For example, if you're somebody who's having a lot of hot flushes at work, and you've noticed that a colleague is having hot moments or kind of getting a bit flustered and things, in a meeting, for example, then you can always ask just simply, do you need the thermostat turned down in the office? Do you need a window opened? Are you feeling okay? That kind of thing. That just makes it like normal. Or lots of women quite like it when it's okay to use humour. So again, it depends on your workplace. But if humour's acceptable within your workplace, just kind of, some women feel a bit happier to just kind of go on just having a hot moment, or just having a power surge. Some women call them power surges, to try and make them less negative and more of a positive kind of feeling, things like that. But yeah, just reminding women that this is a normal, natural process, that every woman goes through it, and that if they have any concerns or they're having any issues with it, that it's an open place to talk and to look at those concerns, because you can, for example, offer somebody a desk fan if they're in the office. Again, I know lots of people are home working at the moment, but simple things like having access to a fan on a desk so that you can turn it on and off as you need to is amazing.
Brilliant, thank you. And I think that kind of covers that question, I hope, Lorraine. So that's kind of answered that for you a little bit. So I know that with the work you do, you're working with women to think about menopause differently. How does this help, and what difference does it make?
So we know from some of the research evidence that your mindset, your attitude towards menopause can impact on how you feel when you go through it and how distressed those symptoms make you feel. So, for example, if you're somebody, and this comes out of the research that we did a little bit back at King's College, is that lots of women were saying, so menopause to me makes me feel over the hill, old, past it. You think of the archetypal older woman, but this is something that's happening in your late 40s and early 50s. You're not old at that point, like not in today's kind of feelings, and kind of, you're kind of hitting the prime of your career rather than actually being old, but it's still tied with those connotations of being quite old and kind of being past your reproductive peak. Or do you feel that much of a woman now you've passed that point in your life? So I think if you can go into that with a healthier attitude, as in this is a normal natural stage, it doesn't mean that you're old in the slightest. It just means you're hitting a certain transition in your life, and then actually coming out of it, you might be able to enjoy some more freedoms because you don't have premenstrual syndrome anymore. You don't have to deal with bleeding. You don't have to worry about, when you're going through that transition and you don't know when those periods are going to happen. Women often have to carry like sanitary protection with them all the time because you never know if you're on a day trip, if you're going to suddenly be caught short. So having that security that it's all over and you kind of come out the other end, and if you can hold that throughout the process, that can be, such a healthier attitude. And we also know that when we have a hot flush, in the meeting example, you have a hot flush in a meeting. If you start thinking, oh God, I'm hot and red and sweaty and everybody can see me having this hot flush, oh, this is embarrassing, oh God, I look incompetent, and is my makeup still in place, in the middle of a meeting, that distracts you from what you're there to do, your presentation or however you're engaging within that meeting. And means that you're not getting the best out of it, so therefore you feel, it may not be the case, but you feel like your place in the workplace is kind of your employee kind of business is suffering, or however you're conducting yourself within the workplace is suffering. So then that impacts on how you feel again. So if we can go into this kind of feeling, it is a normal, natural process, and yes, I'm going to have some symptoms, but I can maintain the attitude that it's a normal thing. The hot flushes do pass. If we can breathe through it, keep calm, not get engaged in that kind of worry cycle of thinking, and actually go, wow, I'm managing to do this presentation and I'm having a hot flush. However, ace am I? That kind of mindset, that can be much more beneficial to how you feel about your symptoms and how distressed you feel about it. And that's not me saying positive thinking gets you through, because that's not what I'm here to say. That's not the method at all. Definitely not. Hot flushes and menopause is a real thing with real physiological impact on your body and how you're functioning. But it's more if we can be supportive of ourselves and other people can be supportive of us as we go through this, we get through it in a more manageable way than if we are saying, why is this happening to me? This isn't fair, and kind of getting caught up in those hot flushes. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And I think just to kind of expand on that question a little bit for the males in the audience, because I think it was a very good thing that you picked up on there about the mental health attitude. And like you said, it's not just about being positive and going, it'll all go away. It's about just having that more healthy attitude to it. How can men support females with that healthy attitude? What can they do that do you think makes a difference? Whether it be an employer or a male manager, or whether it be a partner, or what sort of things do you think they can do?
I think just being aware that it's happening and being able to talk about it. So not that women, want to moan all the time about the symptoms and that kind of thing, but just so, for example, if you're aware that your partner's having a hot flush, or somebody within the office is having a hot flush, to make it okay, so and that it's not something to be embarrassed about. So lots of and men probably won't even pick up on it a lot of the time anyway, but if somebody's looking a bit flushed or whatever, just to kind of say, do you want the window open, or to comment, or just to let it go if the woman's kind of getting all caught up in it. Or similarly, if you're having issues within the bedroom, maybe working with your partner to work out what works for you. So I know, for example, you can get like quilts for the bed, which are thicker on one side and thinner on the other. So practical things, or you can put a fan on a timer, or you can help your partner to have, like things by the bed, towels or whatever, or change sheets and things, so it's easier for her to manage it. But also just making her aware that she's still a lovable, wonderful person that you love and be around, or if it's somebody at work, that their work isn't suffering, that they're definitely not incompetent, and they're still performing, and they're still doing all those things that in their heads they're going, oh, I'm not doing a very good job at this, and this, because this is what women do. Constantly in our heads we're going, and a lot of men do this as well, I know, but in our heads we're going, oh, well, I dropped the ball on that today, and I forgot to do this, and I haven't done that, and in our heads all day long. So perhaps just a bit of a, you are an amazing woman and you're dealing with this really well. This is normal. This will pass, kind of thing, making her feel like she's still a whole woman, not half a woman. Now you've gone through this, which is kind of what's going on internally sometimes.
And I think important to point out for the men is to make sure we get the right processes in the right places, because I think telling female colleagues they're lovable people might be taken in the wrong way sometimes. So but that's great, thank you. And Liz has said that she's very interested in menopause and the link to mental health, so I think that would be good just to cover that a little bit more, if there's anything else that you want to cover around that side of things.
Sure. So similar to what I was kind of saying, but there is during the menopause, women often do report feeling depressed or anxious. That's often to do with the symptoms, and obviously you've got to be aware your body's going through a massive change, and that can impact on the hormones and what's going on, in terms of serotonin and all that kind of thing. So there's all that side of thing going on. We also know women get sleep deprived, and if you're sleep deprived, then obviously depression depression and anxiety come to the fore anyway a bit more. But a lot of and then you might have memory issues, which women get a lot concerned about those as well. So it's all kind of interlinked. There's not huge evidence that menopause causes these things in terms of a direct hormonal link. It's more that it's a massive point in life where if you're already feeling a little bit worried or anxious or something like that, this kind of makes it more so. So I'd really encourage anybody who's feeling like that to definitely chat to people, or drop me an email or whatever, and get some support on that kind of side of things. Because there is plenty you can do in terms of learning about how you think, to help minimize those symptoms, making sure you're doing your self-care, exercise. Exercise is brilliant for depression and anxiety anyway, because of the things that it does for your body in terms of dampening down your whole kind of nervous system, eradicating the adrenaline and that kind of thing that is kind of tied up with getting kind of anxious and things. So doing some exercise, and exercise is amazing for menopause as well. Anybody who's going through menopause should definitely be doing weight bearing exercise, brisk walking, jogging if you're able to, that kind of thing, because that all protects you as you go through menopause and into later life, definitely. But yeah, anybody who's kind of thinking, I'm struggling with this, definitely get in touch with either your GP or drop me an email, and I can signpost you onto some services. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. And for the men in the audience, if you've got any questions, or you're thinking if you've got any comments, any experiences that you want to share, or you want to ask questions about, feel free to drop them in as well, and we will attempt to answer those and I think it's always interesting as well to get a male perspective on something like this, and applaud any men that are brave enough to share as well, without feeling like they're in a judgmental or being shouted down kind of situation. So do feel free to share. Lorraine has said thank you for the information about useful phrases, so that's definitely helped with her. She's also said that they were watching GPs behind closed doors recently, and a member of staff had a really portable menopause fan that could be charged from a USB point in the office, which might be helpful to some people. So that's good to know. There are some portable devices that people can use and work with out there.
They are. You can also get some with like a mist as well. I've got one that's got a mist that you put water in the top of, and it's not it doesn't feel wet, but it kind of sends a mist and it's a bit more cooling. You can also get pillows that are like water or like gel inside that keep you cool in the night, or mattresses and things like that if people are into that kind of thing.
Yeah, brilliant. And we've talked a little bit about the work, what work can do. We've talked about some of the things that can make it easier, but let's just cover that a little bit more. Tell us a bit more about some of the things that workplaces can do to support women during menopause and the difference that can actually make.
Sure. So I think here is key. You don't necessarily have to have a whole menopause policy, which some bigger companies are going down that route, and that's absolutely fine if that's something you wanted to do. But there is simpler things that you can do in an office environment or whatever that can help women to feel supported by this. So we said kind of desk fans, they're really useful just to have access to something like that. Or somewhere where you can control the temperature. So if you have windows in your office, you know, one might want to sit next to a window so that she can open that as and when needed. But also things like flexible working, because many places already have things like that in place. So can you flex the working day? Say you've got somebody who suffers from night sweats and some nights are worse than others. Can she start a bit later on some days if she's having an issue? Or can you do ad hoc working from home on some days if hot flushes in the office are a bit of a nightmare in particular periods? Or have you got a room in the office where somebody can go and cool off? Important if you've got a uniform or people who might be not in an office environment, but more where you've got to wear an actual uniform. The kind of material that's made out of can make people hotter and make, you know, when you have hot flushes and sweats, a bit more difficult to manage. And also the number of uniforms, for example, that some people are only given 2 uniforms. So if you're somebody that's having lots of hot flushes, that might be another difficult thing. That, you know, if you can get access to more of them, that's helpful. And then it's also things like my workplace recently added menopause as a category for your sickness absence. So women, instead of having to make up an excuse if you're feeling really rough and really don't feel that you can work today, some women may have had to take an annual leave day if they didn't feel able to put something else down on a sickness absence or make up a reason. Having menopause as something that you can then tick as an option just helps break down those barriers, doesn't it, and make it normal and okay to have issues related to that you can tick on your form.
Yeah, brilliant. And the uniform, again, that's something you wouldn't necessarily think about, is, you know, the clothing in the uniform and the effects that can have depending on the material. So it's good to kind of think about those sort of things. Martin has actually asked, do the hot flush, etc., effects continue after a hysterectomy?
So it depends so that comes under the criteria of a surgical menopause, and that depends what exactly is removed. If ovaries and things are removed, then that can put somebody into a very quick menopause, which it can often be more severe because that drop in estrogen is very quick and very severe. So the body almost goes, what's going on here? And kind of lots of hot flushes happen and things like that until things settle down. Certainly, if you're on the younger end of the scale and you've had a hysterectomy and things for any reason, definitely talk to your healthcare professionals, because particularly if you're younger, you may be offered HRT and things or various other medications, which sometimes they're not offered later in life, just because earlier in life you might have other risks to consider. So, for example, HRT can be useful and be protective against bone health and osteoporosis for later on. But actually, if you go through the menopause in your 50s, that's not as much of an issue in terms of osteoporosis risk than if you go into menopause in your 30s, because you've had a hysterectomy. That's 20 more years with, you know, a change in hormones that you've got to deal with there. But yeah, definitely when you've had a hysterectomy, it puts you into the menopause. So that can happen at whatever point that hysterectomy happens, depending on what bits are removed.
Excellent. I think that definitely answers that question. So it is going to have an effect and you will experience those effects, but how long for is really dependent on lots of situations and lots of things behind that. Michael has said it's all about just being kind. So yeah, absolutely right. It's just being a little bit kinder and a little bit more considerate, I think, which is something we can all do in any stage of relationship and life. That's good. So what are the we know the negatives that people associate with menopause, but like we've discussed a little bit, this is about the work you've been doing is about turning around and looking at things differently. So what are the positives for women and their relationships?
Oh yes, it's not all doom and gloom. We don't have to kind of it's all doom and gloom. So there is positives. So lots of women do report like feeling like once you've gone through the menopause and things, it helps you to often reevaluate what you want from life and where you are. Probably as well because it comes at that stage in your life where you might have a lot of other stuff going on. You might have kids leaving home or adolescent kids you to consider. You might have elderly parents who need caring needs. You might be at a busy point in your career. So it's all kind of going on at that kind of time in your life. But lots of women do report that going through it, you get a renewed value for life. You get relief from pregnancy and kind of the risks of pregnancy. So lots of women report a healthier sex life afterwards because they don't have to worry about getting pregnant or any of the kind of implications that might have. Although obviously if you're, having lots of different partners, then please do use protection and protect yourself from STTs and those kinds of things. Definitely not saying we shouldn't do that. But yeah, so you often feel relief from periods, relief from any PMS symptoms. I mean, lots of women have that week before your period where you're pretty much feeling horrible, bloated, angry, and after you've gone through the menopause, you don't have to worry about that anymore. Culturally, there is in some cultures where you're excluded from certain activities when you are having your menstrual periods. Once you've gone through the menopause, you might be able to participate in all those activities more fully. So it depends on what culture you're living in. And obviously in the Western culture, we don't have that as so much of an issue. But there is certainly like a feeling of a renewed sense of self and kind of coming out of this with renewed kind of value of life, definitely.
Brilliant. And I think I liked the disclaimer you put in there about still using protection and thinking about STDs, because we do know that one of the biggest issues with STDs is actually in residential and care homes, interestingly enough. So yes, you do still need to think about these kind of things if you're going to be looking at that side of things. But healthier sex life is quite an interesting thing for people, and I think definitely a positive result that will come out for a lot of people. So what top tip would you give to anyone going through menopause, and what top tip would you give to a person supporting someone through menopause?
So anybody going through menopause, I think just be a bit more supportive with yourself and a bit more, like I always think, thinking of the best friend example, because we often are quite harsh to ourselves, aren't we, in the way that we self-talk. And yeah, I would never ever be as harsh to my best friends at all as I would be to myself. So if you saw your best friend having a hot flush in a meeting, or like another employee having a hot flush, or your best friend was saying, I'm having these issues with night sweats during the night or whatever, you wouldn't be like, well, get over it and just kind of, why are you getting so irate with yourself? And you'd be quite supportive, wouldn't you? You'd kind of be, well, how are you feeling about that? And what can we do to support you there? And, you'd be asking the right questions that would help. So I think try and do that to yourself. So, if you're having a hot flush within a meeting, what would help? Would going outside for a minute help? I mean, often leaving the situation isn't the best thing to do, I have to say. But for some women, that kind of does help to break that worry cycle. For some women, it's kind of delving more into what's going on in the meeting. So instead of focusing on yourself and all these symptoms and things that are going on in you, get really interested in what's going on in the meeting, particularly if it's quite an engaged meeting, and kind of ask questions and stuff, and that can keep you focused on externally, or just breathe through it and kind of give yourself a moment there as well. If you're supporting somebody going through it, I'd definitely just kind of say make that person feel that they're no less of a person because they're going through menopause. So in the workplace, they're no less of an employee, they're no less able to do their job or perform well in their role, because often it won't actually be impacting, or even if it is it impacting any more than just general life impacts on work and can do, and impact on how you're feeling day to day. So definitely make people feel that they're no less of a person because they're going through menopause, and that it is a normal kind of natural thing. Well, not natural for everybody, sorry, but it's a normal process and a normal life transition that has an end point, and you'll move through it.
Excellent. So support, and become your own best friend. Yeah. I like that. Okay, so, and I think you've kind of doubled the top tips have covered it, but any final thoughts you want to add to the talk today?
So yeah, I think I haven't covered it, but yeah, definitely be your own best friend. And I think let's just enable women to feel like they can be honest and open about all this stuff. I think that's my aspiration, is that women go through so much stuff, and not saying that men don't as well in life, but we all go through so much stuff in life that we feel like we're not allowed to share, or particularly with menopause, you won't often see a woman have a flush, or if you do, you might not always even register that it's happening. And yet she's juggling a load of stuff at the same time, while she's having all these symptoms and going through this big life transition. So I think just if we can enable women to be honest and open in the workplace, honest and open in your relationship on how you're feeling and how this is impacting you. And, it's not that you've fallen out of love with your partner. It's not that you're not being the best employee that you can be. It's just that you're dealing with some stuff alongside it. So you need to manage that alongside your life. So, yeah.
Brilliant. And Lorraine is saying, people should please feel free to share your biggest takeaways or what you've got from value from today. Whether it be male, female, whoever's on today, just share what you've taken away from today that's been helpful for you. And Lorraine has commented that she likes the idea of including a tick box for menopause on a sickness absence form. I think that's a brilliant idea. And I think there's been many takeaways, and it's been good to hear comments from both sides of the situation as well. So that's been really good. So it's been great to see everyone today. This week has been another great talk and a great Samee With session. And I'm sure everyone has got massive value from it and will continue. If you've got any questions or comments moving forward, then you're able to contact Bev on drbevtaylor@hotmail.com. So you've got that you can ask your questions. If you're watching this on a replay, you can still send through an email and ask a question that you've come up with during this viewing. But yeah, I think that's been another great session, and we will be back next week for another session. So that is a goodbye from me and a thank you very much. And from Bev,
thank you very much. It's been lovely chatting to you.
Wonderful. Thank you for your time. Both most valuable commodity as always. We've got a few comments coming in, so we'll just see. We've got Lorraine has said it's been really interesting session. Thanks. Gareth has said, well done, Bev, very knowledgeable. So he has been paying attention all the time. So we'll be able to quiz him later. Tina Louise has said, great, well done, Bev. Michael has said great talk, and Liz has said thanks. So yeah, there will be some comments that will continue to come in. So yes, it's been great to have you. Thank you ever so much, and we will see you everyone back here next week for another session that is going to be veteran related because of next week being November and the time it is. So we look forward to seeing everyone on that, and we'll see you all next week. Take care. Goodbye.